Shalom everyone. Today is a special class on understanding ourselves, which will include celebrating who we are and stretching ourselves to, who we're not. The Kabbalists teach us that there's 10 spheros. There are 10 basic ways that God creates the world. So therefore, if God created the world with these 10 ways, the whole world's basically breathing with those 10 ways. Anywhere you look, if you understood the ways, you would see ultimately that that's one of them. There's always going to be the 10 spheros in anything you see. Again, the creation's made of the 10 spheros. Therefore, the 10 spheros are what you're going to be interacting with, seeing at all times. It will always be these 10 main ways that God created the world. Now, the amazing point that we're going to be focusing on today is that each person has what we call their Garden of Eden sphera, their Garden of Eden spot, where they're in the zone. That's really their place that they celebrate life the most. Meaning in all the 10 spheros, each one of us has one of them that is our main spot. When you know your main spot, you know that I want to celebrate there. And when you know your main spot, you know the spots that are not your Garden of Eden, what we're going to call now the Garden of Eden sphera. When you're not in your Garden of Eden sphera, you know that's a place you probably have to go certain times of the day. It's a place you might have to go with in certain relationships. You'll know to stretch yourself there instead of just shutting down. Because a lot of people shut down when something's outside their Garden of Eden sphera instead of stretching to that particular sphera. Now, how we'll begin is just with a simple grid. I don't have a graphic grid to show you right now, but a simple grid with 9 boxes. So we're going to have 3 on the top, we're going to have 3 in the middle, and we're going to have 3 on the bottom. So it's basically 9 boxes. Because the 10th sphera, each box represents one of the spheres, the 10th sphera is, anyway, it's all the others. It's all 9 put together, and there's very few people you're ever going to meet. I've met, I think, 2 in my entire life that really had all possibilities in that one person. Meaning, he could have been a lawyer, he could have been a counselor, he could have been a butler. He was great with people, he was amazing with just physical types of things, yet he was a genius in the intellect. You understand? He had it all. Very few people are ever going to be like that. So let's begin. Let's do the 10 spheros. Or the 9, really, of those 9 boxes. And let's see where we all fit in. Now, we're going to start with the verticals. It's much easier to start there. It's very simple. What we're going to be looking at now is the right side, which is, I guess if you're watching this on screen, so that's going to be the right side. So the right side is going to be people who are flow-oriented people. They're the flowy types. Now, I happen to be one of them. Like even today, someone said to me, when's this class going to end, Rabbi? Because I was told it starts at 2. I said, is it 2 yet? She said, it's actually 2:45. You understand? I'm an hour off because I'm a flow person, and flow people, they don't get time. Time is very difficult for flow people. They just don't get it when an hour is without literally seeing the hour or seeing having a beep on their watch or something like that. So that's flow people. They prefer a summer. If they had a summer off, they prefer it unscheduled. They prefer an unscheduled summer. Just let it be. They're very spontaneous. They love when the plans get mixed up, something changes. Like, for example, a lot of rabbis or teachers get a little upset when someone comes late to their class. For me, that's the best thing that ever happened in my class. It's like, wow, who's this? This is a new person just walked in the door. Who could this be? So for me, someone coming late to class is wonderful. Now, of course, I can be a little frustrating for structured people, but whatever, I'm extreme flow. I'm a good example of that, of understanding flow, because I'm just so extreme at flow. Now the next type of person will be on the left side of the boxes, and that will be going down all three boxes, that whole column, are structure people. Structure people, if they had a summer off, they would schedule it, and they would love scheduling it. And they'd follow the schedule of their summer. They like to schedule their day. They know what an hour is. They actually know when an hour begins and ends, without even looking at their watch. They're good at itinerary. They aren't necessarily so spontaneous. It's a little hard for them to loosen up at times. They are structure-oriented people. So the first thing you want to do is just right now take a little inquiry, look into yourself, and say, am I flow or am I structure? Are you a flow person? Are you a structure person? Now it's very important in figuring out whether you're flow or structure. You gotta be careful, because it could be you're a structure person, but you had structure parents and you rebelled against them and became like some kind of hippie or something, and you became like Miss Flow or Mr. Flow, but really you're like totally out of your box. You're out of you're not in the realm. You're not in your zone. And you never can figure out quite why, because you're really a structure person, you're just rebelling. Or vice versa. Hippie, I get this all the time. Hippie parents with a flow kid, a naturally flow kid, but often the children of hippie parents can't stand. They just can't stand the lack of accountability going on in their parents' scheduling and stuff. And they become these super structure kids when actually they're a flow person. They always feel a little off. When you're out of your Garden of Eden sphere, you feel off. Your breathing isn't right. Your digestion's not quite right. You could get back pain, neck pain. I believe, personally, that if people are not hooked up in their Garden of Eden sphere, I think it affects their longevity. Because they're not in the zone over time. So obviously, someone who's a structure person should have a structure occupation. And someone who's a flow person should be in a flow occupation. I found generally the structure occupations make more money. The flow meisters, make less, but you know what? They don't really care. They're just going with the flow. Now, it's very rare to find anyone. It's very rare to find anyone who is right down the middle, right in that balance. It's very rare to find someone who's in the balance. Meaning he's not flow, he's not structure, rather he's both flow or structure. She's flow and structure. It's very rare you find such a person. But they do exist. So you may be that balanced person. Once in a while I get to meet such a person. And by the way, that type of person, they make more money than both the flow and the structured people because they handle it all. They're generally in managerial positions. The people who are down that center three boxes, that center three are the balance of both flow and structure. It's very rare to meet one, but they do exist, and they're generally in managerial positions. So for those of us who think we're balanced, because everyone wants to say they're balanced, I'm balanced, Rabbi, I'm balanced. When I go around the room, I always ask people, I have the whole room say, are you flow or structure? So often I get a few more balances than there should be statistically in the room. So what we do instead is we say, you know what, I'm healthy flow. I'm flow, but I'm healthy. I'm more towards center. I am what you call extreme flow. So I'm extreme flow. I'm not a healthy flow. I'm an extreme flow. There are people who are balanced. They're called balanced flow. And also on the structure side, there are structured people who are good at being spontaneous. They're okay with when the schedule gets changed a little bit. They're able to go with the flow a little bit. They're still, though, in the end, they're structured people. They celebrate structure. They love structure. Okay, so be careful not to think that you are a balanced person when you're not, because it's very rare. It's very rare, and it's not. You just don't. The only person you'll be fooling is yourself. Ultimately, you want to celebrate. Now let us discuss the difference between celebrating and stretching. You want to celebrate what you are, and you want to stretch to the other side. So where do I celebrate? In flow. I love it. I love being flow. I stretch to structure. I have to. Bills got to be paid. I've got to get in to teach at a certain hour, which means I got to wake up at a certain hour, which means I have to have my coffee at a certain hour. Everything has to be somewhat anchored to structure for me. So too, a structure person has to celebrate that they're a structure person. They get the job done. They're so useful for flow people to help them get the job done. And they need to stretch themselves to the flow side because they are going to have to go out to dinner with people sometimes. And there's going to have to be conversation at the table. So they're going to have to be able to go with it a little bit. That's why people have a lot of issues with lawyers. You know, the famous joke that we're actually in Manhattan right now. I don't get to tell this joke in Manhattan too often. They say there's more, what do they say? They say there's more lawyers than people in Manhattan. So that was a joke. But anyway, you got to be able to stretch yourself from structure to flow, because you know what? As they say, we make plans, God laughs. A structured person is never going to be at peace because the plans keep getting mixed up. The guy didn't show up. Or the guy thought he called and said he's not coming, but he didn't call and say he's not coming, and now everything's messed up because he's an extreme flow guy that you're dealing with. Now, the structure guy's going to go out of his mind if he doesn't learn, or she doesn't learn to stretch. To be able to go to the flow, it will create great well-being, okay? So celebrate and stretch. Celebrate and stretch. Celebrate your thing and stretch. Now, what do I mean by celebrating? I mean really celebrate. Celebrate. If you're that structured person who's going to get a good income as a result, celebrate that. You're a structured person. Take yourself out for dinner. Here's to being a structured person. You know, order a scotch, you know, at the meal. Who orders scotch at meals, you know? When you got a bottle of it right there at home. So, but celebrate it. You made money because you're a structured person. I don't know. I'll tell you how I celebrate flow. It costs me to be flow. It costs. It literally costs me money. You know, did I just leave that guitar in the back of that cab? You know, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do? You know, or did I just forget to pay that? Or I get in the mail, I get a parking ticket that's tripled in price. Why? I said, can't it just double in price? And if I look further down the mail, because I haven't checked the mailbox in, like, you know, my POB, I haven't checked my POB in 5 months, you know, because the double parking ticket's just a few letters, you know, it's about 15 letters down or 20 letters down is the double. So I'm like, wow, you know, I could have spent $100 on the parking ticket, and now I'm spending $300 on the parking ticket. And you know what I do? I take out the 300. By the way, we're talking shekels here. I take out the 300 shekels and I bring it to the bank where you pay your parking tickets at the post office in Israel, and I hand it to her with a big smile on my face. And she says to me, what are you so happy about? You're paying triple your ticket here. I said, because I'm celebrating being flow, and if it costs me 200 extra shekels, it's worth it. And you know, and people call me. I get people who come to Jerusalem. They'll hand me like a check for $1,800 or something, and they'll say, Rabbi, I'm going to be here for the next month. Teach me how to flow. I'm from Toronto. I'm sorry, I'm from Toronto. I'm structure. I don't know how to flow. I got to learn how to flow because I see you're more at peace. Teach me how to flow. So we've got to celebrate our thing. That's celebrating. This guy, meaning people would pay to have my situation. The fact that I got triple priced parking tickets sometimes, thank God. Thank God. You got to celebrate it. By the way, stretching, I just made those up, by the way. I don't leave my guitar in cabs. And my parking tickets don't triple. At this point. Because they used to, because I didn't know about stretching. That's the beauty of stretching, is I celebrate my spot, but I stretch, so I pay. Now when I get a parking ticket, which I also don't get now because I stretch, I don't get parking tickets. I get one parking ticket in the last year as opposed to like 4 the year before and 10 the year before that, because as soon as I learn to stretch, there are no more parking tickets. Because I can stretch there. I can go there. And obviously for flow people, thank God, there's now GPS systems. Now we go to the horizontal boxes. Now the horizontal boxes are going to be really interesting, really fun. And it works like this. The horizontal levels coming down, we did already the columns. The columns were flow, structure, and balance. Now we go to the horizontals. The horizontals are simply your interface to this world. How do you interface? Just like a USB interface into a computer, that's an interface where it can have a give and take of information. Each one of us has an interface. We have a give and take of information. And that give and take of information that we have is 3 modalities. There is an intellect interface. There is, and I'm pointing more towards my heart, there is an emotional, or what we're going to call synergistic interface, where you synergize. You're a synergistic people person. You deal with people well. And then you have the bottom, which is, I'd be pointing to my legs, is the instinctual modality. So you have an intellect modality. You have a synergistic modality, meaning synergizing with people, meaning you work with people, you get your information with people. And then finally, you have the instinctual modality, the people who connect, they interface with this world, hands-on, tactile. They like to feel it, they like to touch it, they like the experience of it. That's the instinctual modality. Now, what we want to discover is which is our key modality. Again, we have all 10. Again, meaning all of us have flow and structure to us. Just what's your key one? Same thing here. All of us have intellects. You know, have you ever met anyone who doesn't have an intellect? Everyone has an intellect. Okay, everyone has to read a sign, read a book, study this, study that. We all have intellect. Everyone who went to school has intellect. They have to go there. Otherwise, you can't learn anything. But it may not be your key modality. The next modality is synergizing with people. Is that the way you connect to this world is with other human beings. You just get your information via being in connection with other people. And again, the third is instinctual. It's a more tactile. They like tangible things. They like to taste it, feel it. They go with the senses. They're sense-oriented people. That's the third modality. Now, again, we're all 3, but what's your key interface? When you discover your key interface, then you're really on target now with your Garden of Eden sphere, because think about it, we already did the verticals. Well, once you get your horizontal, you know your Garden of Eden sphere. It's that easy. It's simple. And then you got it. Now, so let's figure ours out. What is yours? What is your modality on these interfaces? So if you're intellectual, let's talk about that for a minute. You love knowledge. You simply love knowledge. You love Torah. You know, learning Torah is amazing for you. In fact, they have yeshivas for people like you. Okay? If you're intellectual, you're in the Garden of Eden when you get to yeshiva. You know, a lot of people go to yeshiva. I'm going to yeshiva 3 months. So the ones who go for 3 months and leave after 3 months, those aren't the intellectual ones. The ones who go in there who are pure intellectual types, that's their modality. They get in yeshiva, they literally think they died and went to heaven. If that's not your modality, after about 3 months, you're like, I think I've had just about enough. Okay, because you still want to learn, but maybe a couple hours a day. That's enough for me. The intellect person, I'll give you an example. You love reading. Reading's a great way for you to interface with the world because you love ideas, and reading's going to throw them at you quicker than anything. So reading's perfect for you. Now, if someone came up and interrupted you, excuse me, can we just speak for a few minutes? If you're an intellect person, you're like, can it wait? You know, can you say I'm reading? No, all of us read. Everyone reads, you know, because you have to stretch. Like I stretch to read. Intellect's not my thing. Okay, so I have to stretch to go to my studies, my Torahs. I'm a rabbi. I got to study Torah. I study Torah. You know, I can't get away without studying Torah. If I could, I would probably. But because I don't interface so well intellectually, but I do. You can imagine me studying Torah. I'm studying Torah in my study hall. You know, we're learning, and some guy walks up to me. Some kid walks up to me. Rabbi, can I just have a few minutes of your time? You know, I'm just like, sure. Like everyone knows, like, you know, I'm a sucker for a chat, you know, because I synergize. That's the way I relate. So let's go to synergy. Synergistic people, they get their relationship to the world through people. They're very comfortable with people. They love being in public places. They love being around people. And again, by the way, in case you're synergy but you're not sure, if you have a great fear of rejection, you will think you're not synergistic. But you may be a synergistic person who's just afraid of rejection. So don't let fear of rejection get in the way of your diagnosing whether you are synergy. You understand, there could be someone who's like just deathly afraid of rejection. He might have had, or she might have had some rejections as a child, and now they're very recluse, but they're miserable because they want to be with everybody. See, people who are recluse, people who are more introverted like that, who are healthy, they love being alone. They just like being alone. But if you don't love being alone, you might be the synergistic person who's just afraid of rejection. So you got to be careful with that. You know, as we spoke before, you might be rebelling on whether your flow or structure with the hippie parents or something. So the same thing here is you might be not aware of that you really do interface with people, but you've got a fear rejection issue going on. Synergistic people like to relate to people. I'll tell you, I have about 80 classes that I give over that are like my power classes. There are about 80 of them that are like very powerful, strong takeaways. I don't know what they are. I actually don't have a list of these classes. I have no idea what they are, because I never know when it's time to give over the class. In fact, I chose this class something like maybe 2 minutes before this class started. I chose to give this particular topic. I am purely synergistic, and I synergized with someone before that about what to give over, and then I went and used the facilities before the class. I came back. I already had a new class because this guy's the guy who's going to want this class. This is going to be his takeaway. He happens to be in the room right now listening to this class. Synergistic. I have no class plan. Even when I give over a class, there is no outline. I know in general what needs to be said. You, the listener, have to draw it out of me. You're going to draw it out of me. I am a synergistic teacher is a guitar, and you're the pick. You're strumming the guitar, and they're always going to be the best teacher because they're teaching you. It's not like I've come in with my class plan for you that I'm going to, put on you. Rather, it is a class that's being drawn from me out of the people who are in the class, making it particularly difficult to do this for a camera. Now, hence the people who were invited to the class. The synergistic teachers, that's just the way they are. If you're synergistic, you love being around people. That's really how you get it. And by the way, you could be synergistic one-on-one. There's certain synergistic people who like a crowd. There's certain synergistic one-on-one, but that's how they get it. They get it via those relationships. It doesn't have to be a crowd. It could be one-on-one. But with people, always, that's how you get it. I almost can't think without another person there. And when another person's there, what comes out is just unbelievable. What I can draw out of me just by being with that person, synergizing. But the second the person disappears, it's like literally like the screen went off. It's on screensaver till I'm with another person, and then boom, it's back on. It's like pure synergistic. I have to be in synergy. So now you know my Garden of Eden spot. I'm extreme flow and extremely synergistic. Okay, that's where I am. So I'm going to be, again, we have this row, this row. I'm going to be over here. I'm going to be extreme flow and synergistic, which we have not discussed the names of the 10 spheros, but that's called chesed. It's called chesed. Now, ready for instinct? Now we go to instinct. Instinct are people, as we said before, are people who are more tactile. They like to feel it. They like to touch it. They go with the senses. They like to taste it. They might even be a little heavier than the rest of us because they really like to taste it. They are more physically involved, though they may even be, in perfect shape all the time because they're in the gym. They love the physical realm. That is their Garden of Eden, is when they're in the physical realm. They might be involved in physical labor. They might be artists. They might be, like clay and pottery and paint, and they're definitely the musicians. They're the musicians. The beach bum, obviously, is going to be flow instinct. They're in heaven, just laying out there on the beach. Great instinctual business people, whether it could be in real estate, whether it could be in any kind of business. There's got to be instinct stock traders, pure instinct people. And they are, by the way, what do you think their instinct flow or instinct structure? pure instinct structure. Those are instinct structure people. They're not the funnest people at the dinner party. No offense, everybody. Okay, they are instinct structure people. By the way, they can be very fun people too, but I'm sorry, I don't want to make them feel bad here. But they are instinct structure people are great at the stocks. There's a person I counsel. I consult him, who works in a stock firm. It's his own trading firm. It's a hedge fund. And every time he listens to his instinct, he trades right. Every time he says to his partner, what do you think of this trade? It's too late already. It's gone. It's gone, and they usually lose it. It's a bad trade. So what my work with him is, don't look over your shoulder. When you get that instinctual moment, and I wouldn't even have it. I don't do that. I'd stare at that computer screen, and then again I go to screensaver. When you get that instinctual moment, you go with your instincts. You always listen to that instinct on that trade or on that house or on that buy or whatever that sale is, that you go with that instinct. Okay, so that's the three modalities of intellect and synergy and instinct. Now, we're all 9. We're really all 9 of them. So here's the thing that you want to do. What you want to do with the interface ones, meaning the intellect, synergy, instinct, is you want to number them. Because you're all 3. So number them. So I'll tell you what I am. I am 2, 3, 1. 2, 3, 1. I celebrate the most in synergy. The next is instinct. I'm a surfer. I'm a mountain biker. I could start doing handstands for you right now and all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm very in tune physically. I eat well. I'm constantly in shape. So that's my instinct part. That's my 2 though, because my synergy is stronger than my instinct. I prefer to be hanging out with you guys than be doing some kind of exercise or something. And my 3 is intellect, so that's obviously where I got to do my stretching, as I mentioned before. Like for me to open up the Talmud and sit there and study in yeshiva, that's where I have to stretch. That's going to be my stretch mode. So you just number it. And you never know where the people are. And by the way, very important to get, it does not mean you're not smarter if you're instinct. I have a guy in my class right now in Jerusalem. He's an instinct guy, and he's the smartest guy in the class. I don't know how we'll keep him in yeshiva. And how the guy's going to stay in yeshiva is like hard to know, because he's an instinct guy. The guy wants to like build buildings and stuff. He wants to like sand wood, but he's the smartest guy in the class. He's brilliant. He's like head and shoulders above everyone in the class, but he's an instinct guy. You hear how it works? So we're not saying that the instinct guy isn't brilliant. This guy's the smartest guy of 25 guys in the class, but he wants to go to the beach. Whereas the intellect guys who can't touch him, they're in the Garden of Eden because they're in yeshiva. Now, by the way, I just want to mention about maximizing one's Torah study, because every Jew's got, a feeling of connection to Torah study. If you're intellect, you don't need any tricks. You always are going to love a Torah class. If you're synergistic, so the way to go about learning Torah is for you always have to connect it to what difference does it make to me now. You always have to apply it. What difference does it have to make? What difference does it make to me now? How is this applicable? And I promise you, no matter what you learn in Torah, there's a concept that the Rosh Yeshiva of Eshet Torah, Rav Noach Weinberg Zatzal, who said that basically all of Torah is what's called Torah's Chaim, meaning instruction for life. Everything you learn in Torah, no matter how unapplicable it may seem, you can get a direct lesson from it. There is always something to derive from it for your life now. So synergistic people to stay in Torah study must always be asking themselves, okay, it doesn't have to be while you're learning, because you're going to make the guy you're learning with or girl you're learning with crazy to do it every moment. But when you're through learning, immediately, how do we apply this? My study partner and I, what we do is we learn ahead, we'll finish a chapter of Talmud, it may be in a week or two. Then we go back. And we learn, because we're both synergistic, how does it relate to our lives? And that can take us literally 3 months. 3 weeks to get through the piece, 3 months to squeeze it for what is it teaching me now about my life, my wife, my kids, my marriage, my friends, everything about this world. What's it teaching me about politics, about world movements? So that's synergistic people. Now, if you're an instinctual person, when it comes to Torah study, Hashem should help you. Just kidding. Hashem should help you, but you're going to need to pull out more tricks. I'll give you one example. There was a guy who was learning at Eshet Torah, and he was a purely instinctual guy. And today, of course, he owns a construction firm. It's a very successful construction firm in Jerusalem. And but he had to learn yeshiva. He wants to know Torah. It's his birthright. It's his birthright to know the Torah. So he comes to yeshiva, but what do you do with such a guy? He just wants to hammer nails. So you know what he did? He took about 6 different colors of highlighters, and he starts marking up his Talmud. So this rabbi's pink. The other rabbi's going to be pink as well. But the argument that the first rabbi gave is blue, and the argument the second rabbi gave is also blue. But the first rabbi attacks the second rabbi, and that's going to be green. Attacks are green. And the guy's Talmud, when you see down the whole page, proofs, attacks, sources from the Mishnah or something, everything had its color. When you looked at his page, it literally looked like just a coloring, a tower of colors coming down the page. And this guy got so good at it that he could walk into the room from the other side of the room. He would look at his page of Talmud. He would tell you exactly what's going to happen on that page of Talmud. He doesn't know which rabbi it'll be. He has to look at the words. He doesn't know exactly what the arguments were, but he'll tell you. He's going to give 3 points. He's going to prove them with three examples. Another rabbi is going to come along, and he's going to attack those. And then the first rabbi again is going to come with a rebuttal from a Mishnah. He'll tell you that from across the room. He doesn't know who the people actually are, who the rabbis are. He doesn't know what their arguments are. So, in other words, an instinct person to be in Torah study is going to have to be very creative. Very creative. And they should know every day is a gift that they're studying. And celebrate that gift, that they're in there learning Torah. Now, obviously, what I'm saying right now, and this is a bit off the topic, because it's not that off the topic, but obviously, yeshivas, whether it's for men or women, but specifically for men, the yeshiva system, if they use this work we're doing right now, who do you think they're catering to in the yeshivas? Who are they promoting? Who are they? Yeah, they're promoting the intellectual guys. Mm-hmm. And by the way, what do they study mostly? You think they study the Torah, meaning the actual 5 books and the Hasidic teachings or something on it, or the commentaries from? They study Talmud. What's Talmud? Structure, intellect. Mm-hmm. Talmud, structure, intellect. How it works is like learning Chumash, Tanakh, the prophets, the writings, the ideas, the Vilna Gaon or something, or Hasidic thought, or Kabbalah is all going to be, over here, it's going to be flow, intellect. Yeah. Talmud's going to be structure, intellect. There's very few people there. But it's going to be structure, intellect. And then halacha, meaning what do I do? How do I apply it? Is like practical halacha is the middle one. It's going to be intellect balance, and that's called das. And that's why so few people of all the Talmud scholars are actually good at nailing down the law for you. There's only so many rabbis you'll meet who can actually say this is what to do in any particular question. Because again, I told you, the middle one's the rarest. And anyway, but the bottom line is what I would like to see is a restructuring of how yeshivas teach based on the people. Not only that, but let's bring it out to secular things. If I were hiring for a big business, I would immediately pull out the structure, pull out these 9 boxes, and say, well, where's this guy belong? Is he in brainstorming on the right side of the thing? Is he someone who's going to be able to think about where Microsoft should go next year with their ideas? Or is this a structure person that I'm going to need with a more structured job? Is this a synergistic person who I need relating to people on the floor? Is this someone I want in management in the middle, who's going to be managing people? That has to be a synergistic, balanced person. Or is this someone who's going to be very good at dealing with just the more hard stuff like numbers, Maybe this is an accountant who's going to be over here, is going to be working in accounting, i.e. Instinct and structure, instinct structure, someone like that. Anyway, it's so amazing to apply this to the various things. So let me give one application, and that is occupations. The importance of having your occupation be in your Garden of Eden sphere is paramount. You should not be stretching, because whatever you do for a living is probably going to be 8, 10, 12, depending what city, 12 hours a day. You can't stretch yourself 12 hours a day and expect to live a long life and live a healthy life. What you do for a living is the bulk of your life in a way, or not in a way, in reality. Make sure it's in your Garden of Eden sphere. And by the way, if you're listening to this class and you're actually instinct flow, but you've been in law school, you're in law school and you're in your intellect structure, I'm sorry, Charlie. Okay, if you're in your third year, finish. Finish and get out quick while you still can. Get out, and vice versa. You may be doing this, bumming around over here in the flow, doing finger painting over there in flow instinct, but you could be, creating the cure for cancer, which again, anyone in medical research and stuff, anyone doing that stuff is going to be intellect structure. This is where one of the big problems is in psychology. Because who's going to be the best psychologist? Intellect, synergy, or instinct? Obviously synergy. You're with a human being. You're trying to help a human being. You've got to be in the flow with this person. But the problem is to be a psychologist requires years and years of study in where? Intellect structure. It's like, what am I saying? Anyone who's good at that is not going to be a good psychologist. And anyone who's going to be a good psychologist isn't going to go do the schooling. And this might be, by the way, why the world is being kind of overrun with alternative medicine and alternative types of things. And I'm not a psychologist. I'm a life coach. Today it's big to be a life coach. And I'll tell you the truth. He might do a better job. Now, if of course someone has a predisposition, a psychological issue that's going to need professional help, so the life coach might not catch it because he didn't do 8 years of schooling to get his PhD in psychology. But nevertheless, the synergistic person is going to be the one who's going to be the best psychologist. Now, I happen to be trained in therapy, but the problem is I'm extreme flow, so I would finish a session with someone. This is you want to hear how I got out of therapy? Not my own going to therapy, but how I got out of the occupation. I did it I did a couple of 100 hours for a few years, but what would happen, I'd do this amazing session with the person, because I'm so synergistic that 1 hour with me, we can literally like climb mountains and see clearly and make choices and even map out the where we're going with it. So I would do this amazing session with the guy, and he would say to me afterwards, he'd say, "Thank you very much, Rabbi. When will we be meeting next week?" Which means, remember in the class, now he's bringing up schedule, calendar. I have to meet him again. So I look at him kind of blank face. I'm like, next week? What did we just do this last hour? Aren't we finished? And the guy looks at me like, you don't want to see me again? I'm like, you can come for Shabbos. But we're done. We're done. You imagine what a great business I would run in therapy. I could not stand being asked to meet again. So anyway, synergy structure is going to be more that occupation. So let's just do, I'm going to give you an occupation for each of the 10 of the 10. Again, the 10th is all occupations are perfect, okay? Because they don't care. And by the way, they won't be able to do any of them. Because whatever they do, they'll want to do another. They're often frustrated. Okay, so let's go up to the top. Up here, we've got flow intellect occupations. So a flow intellect occupation is Kabbalist ideas. They're not going to be paid very much. Philosopher. There's all the professors are up here. That's why everyone feels not connected to professors. My office hours are the first Tuesday of every month from 11:30 to 11:35 in the morning. That's perfect for a professor. And he's chain smoking. He's an alcoholic. You know, how many of us have professors like that? Though? They're intellect people, philosophy, and we all knew the amazing, thinker in university. Then we've got over here. I mean, obviously, there's more occupation for each one. I'm just throwing one out. Okay, so intellect structure. We already mentioned that could be a surgeon. Classic. You ever seen a surgeon's bedside manner? It's very rare you get a surgeon with good bedside manner, and you know what? That's good. Because a physician, a family physician, I'll already give that now, is going to be, I mean, have you ever marveled at what your doctor understands? He's so structured. But to be a good physician, you have to be able to synergize. What's going on? How are you feeling? I mean, they've got to get a feel for you if they're going to be good. So they're actually down there, and they're very few people are down there and are willing to do that level of learning up here, because they have to jump up here for those years. Okay, but the research doctor, and again, the surgeon is classic structure intellect. And they have to go to more schooling. They always have to freshen their knowledge and stuff. Then we've got the CEO. Okay, Bill Gates is pure. Bill Gates doesn't want to know how everyone's getting along. Okay, he wants to know, the bottom line. Okay, he is balanced intellect. That's the CEO. Again, the middle one's always going to be managerial. Now, we go to the synergy level. On the synergy level, we have the side over here, which I am, obviously teachers. The best teachers are going to be over there. Okay, they might be a little improvisational from time to time, and they should try to stick with their curriculum if they've got one, unlike me. But that's the teacher, ideally. Now, if they're teaching more social sciences, they'll be in heaven there. If they're teaching more structural things, then they'd be better over here, where we said the physician was. The middle person would be great as being a consultant for firms, dealing with social services, dealing with relating to people, but from a managerial perspective. That might be, for example, an education director. Someone who's an education director might be very good right there in that center place, because they're directing everybody, but they're also they got to understand what's the manpower of teaching, of teachers and information out there, and who are the people that are being educated, and how is it all going to interface? Well, sales, again, a sales position would be over in the right. I'm traveling here, I'm traveling there, I'm calling this person, I'm getting called in the middle of this. They like to flow. Okay, that's sales, is over there. By the way, instinct people should stay out of sales if they can avoid them. Okay, and they generally do, but a lot of them get frustrated because they open a business. Because business people, by the way, people who open businesses, let's go down to instinct now. Instinct, structure are often the business people. My father was a clothing manufacturer, perfect instinct structure. He happened to be a great salesman, though, so he kind of defies the rule. But I've met a lot of very frustrated people who their business included a lot of sales. I mean, who doesn't have to sell? We all have to sell. But it's very frustrating for them. They're stepping on toes, and they're often not perfect at that. So that's going to be their stretch, obviously. I guess my father was 1, 2, 3. I'm sorry, 3, 2, 1. His second must have been over there. Okay. So we've got athletes down there at those. You can have artists on the flow side, musicians on the flow side. On the structure side, also you have skilled laborers over there. But over here, like for example in the building we're in right now, the air conditioning system required great structure-mindedness. That was all put in, all that air conditioning. It might not have been laid by, meaning all the pipes and everything weren't laid by these people, but these people are the ones who figured it out, how to air condition this building. These people put in the actual stuff. But then there's the foreman with his pickup truck, the four-wheel drive, the foreman, he's got this beautiful four-wheel drive truck, and he's the foreman. He's the contractor of the site. He's the one who's just kind of masterminding everything. But again, he's not the kind of guy that you want to invite to your dinner party. No offense again. I'm sure the foreman's going to be wonderful drinking his Bud Light at your little dinner party. But he likes to be in the field. He wants to be on a 10th floor of a building, hanging on a rafter. Now, there's one more topic I just want to cover, and then we're done.
Wait, what about balance instinct?
Oh, balance instinct? I just gave that over. That was the foreman, the contractor. It's the person who's on the ground. Okay, they're the ones who they're outdoors a lot in their work, but they're very good at telling people what to do and how to do it. You know, Now get this. I think this is the biggest proof that this is the greatest personality system ever created. By the way, who was it created by? It's created by God. So it's already the greatest one. I mean, it's created by God. It's not like trying to figure out, I'm not going to name any other ones because I don't want to bag on anybody, but it's not like this is human imposed, this particular personality system. This isn't human imposed. This is Hashem's 10 spheros. These are the way that God creates the universe. So it's like, so that's one reason why it's the greatest one of all. But the other reason it's the greatest one of all is it answers an age-old question. And what is the age-old question? The age-old question is, do opposites attract, or does likeness attract? Right? The classic old question. Mm-hmm. And since it's an age-old question means, well, we don't really know. No one really knows something. We're opposites and we love it. Others say, you know, we're just like each other, and that's why we're so in love. So this question just exists, but guess what? We're going to answer it right now in the most satisfying way, and you're not going to believe it. And the answer, as usual, whenever there's a question that just remains, obviously the answer is going to be both. Both. Well, both, if you tell a person both who doesn't know our system we just did, the verticals versus the horizontals, so then both wouldn't make sense to them. It's either opposite or likeness. But in this system, it's both. When it comes to the verticals, flow versus structure, opposites attract. If I'm a flow person, I need my wife to be structure. She's who's going to give me the grounding for everything I got to do in my life. If I am a structure person, I need a flow person to draw me out. I need a flow person to help me. Like we said, God throws a wrench at our plans all the time. I need someone to draw me out. Someone who allows me to chill out when the plans didn't go my way. Now, you will frustrate each other to no end. You will frustrate each other. So you gotta. That's when you stretch a bit. You say, for example, let's say my wife's good at structure. She knows how long an hour is. Okay, so I show up. You know, I'm supposed to be there at 6 for something. I show up at 7:30. I mean, she's ready. She could be ready to kill me, but she's not. You know why? Because she says, you know what, thank God. So she's stretching in a different kind of way. She's saying, thank God he's flow. You know what he's given to me in our marriage? You know what he's taught me? To just be able to go with it, to be able to breathe when things aren't working out. When I had an appointment this morning, but my daughter has a fever and I got to stay home, and it was really important, my husband's taught me to flow in that. That's God's plan, and you got to just flow and be with your daughter that morning. And that's it. So I draw her out. She structures me. Now, by the way, if you're already married, I'm very sorry. You just got to work it out, because like two flow people, it can be difficult. Someone's got to make the chulin. You know, you're going to be getting towards Shabbos, and you just be like, "Are you making the fish?" You know, like, well, actually, I was thinking of going outside and like reading poetry. You know, like it's difficult. But again, opposites attract on these. Of course, you got to have patience for each other. You have to have patience for each other. But opposites attract on the verticals. And now, when it comes to the horizontals, when you're coming down the horizontal level, sameness. That's your interface. You want to interface with your spouse. Otherwise, you're going to be living separate realities. He wants to go to the game. Instinct. She wants to go to the symphony. You know? Which actually could be there, but symphony or the opera or something. It's more of an intellectual type people. I don't know. The interface, it's really important that you interface together. An intellect person should try to marry an intellect person, because they'll just sit with ideas together. They can just sit and talk ideas, or they can just actually just sit there and read. and they'll be happy. Now, of course, people will be watching this, are married. Some are married already. And you may be in a different interface than your spouse. So you got to stretch. You got to stretch. My dad was instinct, my mom's synergy. My dad is instinct, my mom's synergy. And they got to work it out. She has to go to a game once a year. He's got to go with her to the symphony. Or to a party. She's synergy. She likes to go to parties. My dad's like, you think my dad wants to go to a party? He doesn't want to go to a party. He wants to watch the game. So, but he's got to go to the party sometimes. And that's fine. But for those of us who haven't gotten married yet, find that interface. Find the person who interfaces. What do you want to live alone? Want to be lonely? By the way, as I said, I used to work in therapy. Some people actually do want to be lonely. And so they marry someone in a different interface. There are people who do that. They literally find someone who's the opposite interface. So they can it's not politically correct to stay single, so they just stay single by getting married to someone in a different interface. You really want to marry someone who is your interface. So you see how it works? Like, is that not the best stamp of this system? That opposites, yes, you need opposites when it comes to flow versus structure. But when it comes to intellect versus synergy or instinct, meaning where you actually live, where you get your information to and from, well, certainly your spouse should be on the same page. Your spouse should be on your same page. So that's basically the system. That's how it works. I think a lot of people want to believe they're the intellect person. So I want you to know that it is the lowest category. I've done a lot of research now because I've given this over to hundreds of people. And I take polls. Whenever I do the class, I say, okay, everyone go around the room, say which one you are. Intellect's always the smallest. It's usually 10 to 15% of a class. 10 to 15% of the class. Because I get them to be honest. And it's usually 10 to 15% of the class are truly intellectual. I found women are more often synergistic. They're very good at being synergistic. That's a large percentage. That's their number one is synergy. I've found men split almost 50-50, synergy, instinct. Some men are just, half of them are like more instinct, half are so if we had 85%, that 85 would be split between synergy and instinct for men, synergy, instinct. And then there would be that last 15% would be the intellectual when it comes to men. Women are probably, I don't know. I mean, there's no reason to discuss it, but the main point is that everyone wants to say they're intellect. And here's an important hint, that if you're intellect and you're female, you have to marry a man who's intellect, because you won't respect his mind. It's really important that you marry an intellect guy, or you have to work on yourself a lot. Because the biggest place where ego shows up, where arrogance shows up, is the intellect. Think about it. You could be able to shoot a basketball better than other people, but you're not going to walk around the streets of Manhattan thinking you're better than everybody. It's only going to be better than everybody on the basketball court. But everyone has to use their brain. So when your brain when you're just a superior thinker, you're superior in the intellectual modality. Anywhere you go, you're head and shoulders above everybody. That's why the wisest people are the ones in the worst position of arrogance. They're the people who could fall into arrogance the easiest. And so generally I would say, unless the woman's really into working on herself, if she's that intellect person, she should marry an intellectual man. Because she needs to be able to, a man has to feel respected by his wife. Anyway, that is the 10 spheres of personality. It's called Finding Your Garden of Eden. We're going to celebrate, we're going to stretch. Always celebrating what you are, stretching to the other realms, knowing exactly whether you're flow or structure, and again, knowing what is your interface. When you know what it is, you go for it. Make sure your occupation's there. Marry accordingly. Make sure the bulk of your life is spent in your Garden of Eden structure, and obviously stretching yourselves to the other side. Everyone should be blessed to feel whole and have beautiful lives in well-being and connection to God, Torah, mitzvahs, and all of the Jewish people and the world at large. Thank you very much.